I have never covered a story as emotionally challenging as this. This young girl, at the age of 14, faced unimaginable circumstances when her father harmed her and transmitted a serious illness to her. It's hard to imagine, but what you heard is true.
akajya ashaka ngo buri kanya n'umugore nagenda muri ndyamana nawe ntanyishe ndabyanga mbyanza arambwira ati ntubibwira mama wawe nzakwicana nawe.
It's sad to see how she and her mother both breastfeed the children of the same father. They live here in this very poor house. They have no food, no work, and their health condition requires a good life.
baramubwiye ngo bwira mama wawe ikibazo ufite arambwira ati mama mfite inda mfite sida mfite na mburugu nizo bansanzemo.
Why did this man do this to his own child? Where is he today? How is the family living after all this happened? What specific effects did it have on this child?
Mama ni mukeba wanjye ni mama wanjye abera umwana wanjye nyirakuru akamubera mukase cyose. Kwakira ko ndi mukeba we ntago nabyakiriye ahubwo nahise nibaza ko umwana agiye gupfa ko nabonaga ageze mu gihe kibi.
This story is so sad that it makes everyone wonder about many things. That's why I visited them and had a long conversation with them to find out more. This is their story.
Deborah.
My name is Deborah. I am 16 years old and I was born into a family of 12 children. But now we are 9 because some of them have died. I am the oldest girl. I finished my 6th year of primary school and now I don't study because of the serious problems I have faced.
She was born and grew up like any other child, but due to the poverty in her family, they could not provide a good life for the children. Her father worked as a fisherman and her mother worked as a farmer, but these jobs did not generate enough income to meet the children's needs. Because of her illness, Deborah's mother spent a lot of time in the hospital, leaving the children to spend more time with their father, which created a dark situation for this little girl.
My name is John. My children and I were often apart because I have hepatitis and I spent a lot of time in the hospital. Their father was the one who raised them because he was able to work and help me get treatment or take care of the children. I felt that all the children were safe because, as a parent, you trust that the children are with their parents. Unfortunately, that was not the case. My father used to catch fish and sell it, but sometimes he gave it to me to sell at the market. That's how we lived. However, my father often said that I was not his child and that my mother had brought me from somewhere else. This troubled me deeply. Eventually, my father started forcing me to him. At this time, my mother was not there and I had no one to help me, so I did it. My father threatened that if I told my mother, he would end us all.
This happened to the child when she was 14 years old. Her father continued to do these cruel things because her mother was absent. You might think it was a short time, but his father did this for over a year. So, what made her stop tolerating this?
He had told me that if I told anyone, he would kill us all, so I was very scared because I felt I would lose my mother or die myself. After a while, I started to get sick in my legs and mouth. Finally, I showed him, and he gave me medicine, saying I would get better. He kept giving me medicine, but I didn't know where he got it from. After a while, I noticed I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse. So, I decided to go to the doctor to find out what was wrong. When I got to the hospital, the doctors examined me and asked who I had been sleeping with. I was afraid to tell them, but eventually I told the truth. It was my father. They immediately informed the police, who then went to arrest him. I wasn't worried about anything when they called me to the hospital. When I arrived, I was 7 months pregnant. I entered the room and saw my daughter sitting there. The doctors told me not to panic and asked my daughter to explain her situation. She told me she was pregnant and had been diagnosed with AIDS and syphilis. I was shocked and immediately asked her who did it. The doctors said they couldn't tell me, but someone had to show me. A car took us to the police station, and there I found out it was my husband. The shock was too much for me, and I went into labor, giving birth to a premature baby at 7 months.
It was a dark time for this mother and her daughter. Because she hid her illness for so long, doctors found that parts of her private areas had started to deteriorate. Meanwhile, her father had been brought to justice and was sent to jail for his actions. The doctors and the mother were trying to figure out what to do, but nothing was easy.
I never felt calm. Acceptance was difficult for me. I saw my child in the worst condition ever. The doctors told me there was an option for her to have an abortion because she was still a student and had the right to do so. However, my daughter refused. She told me she wanted to keep the baby because she felt it would be her first and last chance to have one. There were problems in the family. My husband's family harassed us, blaming us for jailing their son, who is my husband. I tried to stay calm and patient, even though I struggled to understand how I could be both the child's grandmother and stepmother at the same time. With prayer, I accepted it, and eventually, the baby was born. We were patient and accepted the situation, but my pregnancy was very difficult. When my mother went to the doctor to check on her child, I went to harvest beans. I went into labor while working, but not realizing it, I went home to rest. While I was asleep, the baby partially came out and got stuck between my legs. They immediately took me to the hospital, and the doctors managed to safely deliver my child. Thankfully, my baby was alive. However, I had serious complications afterward. After being stitched up, I went home, but the stitches broke due to hard work. I had to return to the doctor, and they stitched me up 3 times.
It was difficult, but Deborah managed to survive, and today her baby is 6 months old. Her mother also has a young child, so they both sit together and breastfeed. Their lives are very challenging because Deborah needs a healthy diet to feed her baby and take extra care to prevent the baby from getting infected. However, this is hard due to their living conditions.
The life we live is very difficult and beyond my capabilities. I have hepatitis, so I cannot do hard work. To earn enough money, I work on other people's farms, but I don't make more than $1 a day, which is hardly enough to survive. Because of her complications after giving birth, I don't make Deborah do heavy tasks. When I go to the farm, we go together, and she takes care of our kids while I work. Everything is challenging because our current situation is a major obstacle to a better life. However, I keep encouraging her, reminding her that a better life is ahead of us. I was lucky to give birth to my child alive. I continued to take her to the doctor, and they found that she is healthy now at 6 months old. However, I will stop breastfeeding her at 1 year to prevent the risk of contracting AIDS. Living without enough food is very difficult, especially since I need to take medicine regularly, which weakens my body due to the lack of nutrition. Some people mistreat me and blame me for my situation, but I remain patient and silent, believing this is God's will. I focus on taking my medicine properly and protecting others. Many people I know try to infect others out of revenge, but I believe it is better to protect them. At my grandmother's house, they blame me for my father's imprisonment. This hurts me, but I have to stay strong.
Today is not good, but it is different from before. Now she can do different housework and help her mother. Her mother is also trying her best to manage, but it is difficult because of her illness. Their previous house was marked as being in a dangerous location, so they lost it. Their current living situation is very bad. If nothing changes in the next few days, they will have no place to live. The owner of the house they are staying in has given them notice to leave because he wants to renovate his house.
Here you see, I live with all my children. We were evicted from our previous house because it was in an accident-prone area. So now we live in this small house. The owner let us stay here in exchange for taking care of his cow. However, I am very worried because he wants us to leave. I am asking for help from anyone with a kind heart. I have an illness that prevents me from doing hard work, but I can still do other things. If kind people help me get some capital, I can start a small business and find another place to live, so I won't have to worry about our future. Lastly, I want to advise parents to always be concerned about their children. I never thought my child would face such serious problems. Children can be harmed in many ways, so be careful because not everything that looks good is safe. What would make me happy is if people could help us find a place to stay and a way to get food, because it is very difficult for my mother. Another thing I hope for is a change in our life that would allow me to raise my child and stay healthy. I wish to go back to school and continue my studies. Maybe then I could become someone great and help my family and my child. I also advise children to be careful and tell your parents what you are going through. Someone might scare you into silence, but the problem will continue to harm you. Speak up before it's too late. Don't trust anyone because anyone can betray you.
We must all work together to create a world where no child has to suffer in silence. For parents, please always stay close to your children. Be aware of what they're going through and create a safe space for them to share their experiences. Your vigilance and care can protect them from harm. For children, don't let fear silence you, and remember, there are always people who can help.